a tutorial on lunges in yoga, including virabhadrasana 1 and anjaneyasana. So you might want a couple blocks too for this, but not necessarily necessary. And again, you might just watch this and notice how the lunges are interconnected, related, and thoughts on lunges, anjaneyasana, and virabhadrasana 1 in yoga. So when you're ready, you can go ahead, if you are using blocks, put those near the front of the mat. And come to standing near the front of the mat. Feet comfortable distance width apart, lined up with each other. Knees facing generally forward, second toes facing generally forward. Maybe wiggle your toes a bit. And then lifting the toes up to engage the bottoms of the feet, the arches connecting down through any part of the foot that's not the arches. If that works for you, you can spread the toes nice and wide apart, keep the arches engaged, but lower the toes back down to the earth. And then just settle the hips a little bit back over the heels, shoulders over hips, ears over shoulders. Feeling the leg muscles engaged, feeling the muscles around the hips engaged, including pelvic floor, feeling the low ribs engaging, lifting in and up. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you here. Nice, full, deep breaths. Breathing into the bottoms and the back of your lungs. And just let yourself settle. And we'll go ahead and begin with a small warrior 1 stance. So when you're ready, exhale, release the hands to the hips, let your knees be a bit soft. Shift your weight into your right foot. Take a small or medium-sized step back with the left foot. Back heel can be ground, or you could spin it up if you wanted to lift it up. And then here, spin the right knee towards the second toe and stack it right on top of the ankle. Press down through your hips, lift up to the low back. If you want to, you can lift the hands up to the sky here. And again, this is warrior 1. This is a fairly short stance between front and back, and this is always an option, particularly if bending your knee deeply bothers you, or if you're feeling unstable, any of those things. You can also have a chair somewhere in front of you, but not having to go that far front to back, and you're already in a warrior 1. So you could release the hands down if you lifted them up. Press down to the right foot, step the left foot forward. And then again, small, medium-sized step back with the right foot. Turning the hips to face the front of the mat. The right hip might have to pull forward a little bit, left hip a little bit back. But with the smaller stance from front to back, your hips are probably already generally facing the front of the mat. From here, you can bend that left knee. And again, left knee maybe just on top of the ankle. Press down to the hips, lift up to the low back. Lifting the arms up if you want to, breathing here. Now, of course, you do not have to lift the arms up. That's optional. You also don't have to really bend the front knee. So if bending the front knee bothers you for any reason, a variation or a modification would be front leg straight here, breathing wherever you're at. Also, if your low back bothers you a little bit, the interesting thing, especially if your front knee is bent, you might notice to tilt the hips upright, you're moving out of neutral between the hips and the back leg. So again, a modification or a variation can be to lean forward a little bit, lining the torso up with the back foot, the back leg, breathing. And then the arms, if you did extend them, might be by the ears, but your torso's leaning forward just a little bit because you're lining up with that back leg. When you're ready, press down to the left foot, step the right foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides, knees as wide apart as your feet. Inhale, bend your knees relatively steeply like you're sitting back in a chair. And then shift your weight into your right foot here. You can even move the hands to the right knee. And maybe this time take a big step back with the left foot. Right knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe. Back heel can be lifted or back heel can be on the ground. Whatever feels better in your body. And of course, between small and big, there's a medium-sized step back that you can play with things there. And again, right now, keeping my hands on my knee, leaning forward, because I'm letting my torso maybe come just a little bit upright from the back leg here. I could lean a bit more forward and try to line my torso up with the back leg, or I can walk my hands back and come more upright. Now, coming more upright, again, requires a certain amount of mobility in the hips and most likely low back for most people here. You can soften the back knee some to change the angle of the hips. So if I bend my back knee a lot, and this will come into play some more later, then again, my torso, my spine is lining up and aligned with the back knee. While if I straighten the leg and line my torso up with the back knee, then I'm leaning forward. And so to come up with the leg relatively straight, I have to move the hips and maybe even back bend a little bit. But if that's all accessible for you, you can do that. And if you want to, you can lift the hands up to the sky. Here, breathe. And then as you're ready, pressing strongly through the right foot, step the left foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees. Shift your weight into your left foot. Hands can move too. And again, medium, big step back with the right foot. And again, back heel can be up or down. Now, if the back heel is down and they start to come up right, bending the back knee doesn't really become a possibility so much here because you start to overstretch or get a really big stretch to the Achilles tendon. Overstretching depends on how your body handles things. So again, maybe here you might lean forward a bit more instead of coming all the way upright. Maybe you do spin, go ahead, spin the back heel up. But again, options, things that are available for you. And again, if you want to, hands can come by the ears. Also, maybe you don't try to turn the hips quite all the way towards the front of the mat. So maybe you pull the right hip a little bit forward, a little bit back. Maybe instead you open the hips to catty corner, so the top right-hand corner of your mat here. Breathing. And we'll also play with this idea a little bit later. Press down to that left foot, step the right foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide, reach up high. Exhale, maybe fold forward with an extended spine. So probably hands to blocks, but maybe to floor if you can still lengthen the low back out of the hips here. And then exhale if you want to, gently fold in. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale, holding that nice long spine, hands to the hips, shoulders in the back, go all the way up to standing, hands together in front of the heart. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Shift your weight into your right foot, maybe hands to left foot back. Okay, leaning forward, right knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe. Maybe wiggle that left foot back and pull up or down, whichever works for you. And this is when we'll start to play with blocks. So maybe instead of having hands on you, bringing hands to blocks on either side of you. This is just a little bit more stable, but also you're also leaning a bit more forward through the torso. So as you lean more forward through the torso, you might feel some things in the hip a little bit more. So again, if that's too much for the hip, perhaps coming back to here. Or I also often like to just come down to my elbow on that front knee if I don't have blocks particularly. So this is an option. Now, if this is comfortable for you, you can slowly start to lower the blocks down and see how that feels for the front hip. And some of this will also be contingent on how much you can bend this front knee. So if your front knee doesn't bend quite so much, again, you really might be happy to have some blocks because then you're moving into a hamstring stretch a little bit. And so, again, noticing what happens, how your body handles things, the position of things in your body, and doing the appropriate adjustments based on your body. Press down to that right foot, slide wiggle, scoot the left foot forward. Inhale from here, you can lengthen the spine nice and long. Exhale and fold. Inhale and lengthen. And maybe, again, if you're unstable, starting with blocks underneath you, bending your knees here, shifting your weight into your left foot. Big step back with the right foot. Left knee can be on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe if that works for your body. Noticing how things feel here. Playing perhaps with lowering hands lower on blocks. Seeing how things feel. Maybe bringing hands to the ground. And also noticing with hands on the ground, if you do that, how it feels to have the left hand outside the left foot versus inside the foot. Some people might find outside the foot a bit easier. Some people might find inside the foot a little bit easier. Inside the foot also allows some kind of moving into the hip a little bit more. So if you wanted to from here, again, maybe grabbing the blocks again. Blocks at medium height, perhaps lowering down to your forearms. Blocks at lowest height, perhaps lowering down to forearms. or even coming down to forearms on the ground inside that front leg. But again, just noticing how your hips handle these positions, how your body handles these positions. That's okay to be here instead of down lower. It's okay to be here. It's okay to have a block. So doing the appropriate form of the pose that feels good for you, or even doing a closely related pose, which is one of the things we're talking about in this video, how these are all fairly closely related poses. Press down to the left foot, step the right foot forward. Inhale and lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold in. Bend the knees deeply, get the hands to the ground, and maybe come back into a downward facing dog if you're doing this as a short practice and not just looking at it for information. You can bend and straighten the legs here, moving the hips from side to side a little bit. And then exhale, lowering down to all fours, coming to your hands and knees. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long here. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine long. Stretch the right leg back behind you. And then exhale, stepping the right foot forward outside the hand. So if it doesn't quite make it, your foot doesn't quite make it, right hand can grab the ankle and pull the foot the rest of the way forward. Both hands inside the right leg. And like I mentioned, this might be easier for a lot of people, and this is a fine variation. If you want to see what it feels like to have the right hand outside the right leg, you can just move that right foot, heel toe it a little bit towards the left, and bring the right hand outside the leg. And again, all the same rules apply here. So if either of these positions feel like too much for your hips, blocks can be at various heights. Breathing here. Then from here, if you want to, you can come more upright. Again, changing the position of your hips to come more upright. Now this, with the back knee down, with the back knee bent, again, you're lining your torso up with the back knee a little bit more, even in the upright position, or back leg a little bit more, even the upright position here. If you look at the angle between your torso and that back leg here, upright is a little bit more accessible here than if I were to lift that back knee up and have to move into the back bend and tilt my hips more. So against that back leg. So again, just kind of knowing why low lunge might feel different for your back, for your thigh, for your hips, as opposed to high lunge with the back knee lifted. And then from here again, all the variations you might want to do. But hands can come back down to blocks. Go ahead and step this foot back. Okay, to even get the foot between the hands, starting with blocks, or outside the hands, starting with blocks, giving yourself a bit more height, can make that transition easier. But again, if the foot doesn't quite make it, grab the foot, pull it forward. Both hands can be inside that front leg, and again, on floor or on blocks. Or you can move the hand block outside that leg. And this in and of itself is a position that's sometimes held. So sometimes holding this position forward folded a little bit in the pose, again, to get a different stretch to the hips. But if you wanted to, you can start to come upright, see what that feels like for you. And again, whatever arm positions you want to do, even some twisting starts from here, these positions, breathing wherever you're at. And then you can go ahead and bring the hands back down, stepping that left foot back, coming to all fours, lengthen through the spine, and then maybe downward facing dog. And then from here, look forward at the hands and walk the feet towards the hands or the hands towards the feet. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. Inhale, arms come wide, reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. So before we end this video, most of these lunges, warrior one positions, virabhadrasana ones, and anjaneyasana positions, the position of the hips is in general facing towards the front of the mat. Now we mentioned it doesn't have to be perfectly facing towards the front of the mat. So we mentioned, if with your back heel down in warrior one, you might instead point towards the top left-hand corner versus all the way forward. But you're still maybe trying to turn the hips to face forward. You're just not forcing that movement. You're not forcing the hips facing forward, but you're feeling that directional movement in your body. Okay, so that even isn't always true in warrior one. Warrior one, sometimes the hips intentionally, we let them go a bit more towards the side than even that. And instead, you look as the chest and the head turns forward as opposed to the hips. So just kind of looking how these things look in the body. When you feel ready, if you want to play with this, go ahead, bend your knees, take a big step back with that left foot. Leaning forward again just to set things up initially. Right knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe, if that works for you. And again, for the first round, maybe turning the hips a little bit towards the front. But again, I'm not jamming, so probably my hips, if you look at this, is probably facing more the top left-hand corner of the mat. And then lifting my hands up here. So again, this is one way to do this pose with the back heel down, legs nice and wide apart. Okay, I'm going to reset my feet. So the second way is to maybe move my hips more into a warrior two position, almost, not quite. Again, maybe a little bit of a roll forward. Lift my low back up out of the hips, but then really twist my chest towards the front and be here. So again, this is, I'm not so much moving the hips, but I'm doing a strong twist to the chest. And this can also be another approach to warrior one. Breathe. And then go ahead, release, lean back forward, and as you're ready, slide, wiggle, scoot, step, hop that back foot forward. Okay, just second side again, just to see this from a few different angles. So bending your knees, big step back with the right foot, leaning forward, left knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe, and this round, turning the hips generally towards the front of the mat. Although again, I'm not jamming them forward or forcing them forward, so they're probably really facing more towards the right-hand corner of the mat. Coming up right here, lifting the low back up out of the hips. Warrior one, breathing here. Nice full deep breaths. And again, perfectly valid, legitimate way to do warrior one. Again, since my hips are not facing all the way forward, I might have a little twist to the chest here. So there already might be some twisting to the chest. And then leaning forward here, maybe reset that right foot. And again, letting my hips maybe open a bit more towards the side, almost like a warrior two, but a slight roll forward of that back hip. And then a really big lifting my low back up, twisting as much as comfortable, my chest forward, and breathing here. And again, just slightly different approaches to warrior one. Press down to that left foot, step the right foot forward. That also lets you see how from warrior one, you would lead into a warrior two with the hips all the way facing the side. Breathing here. There's a whole sort of slew of things we can think about in this position. And just really quick, second side, warrior two. Breathing. And then press down to that left foot, step the right foot forward, hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and fold, hands to legs, blocks or floor. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale and fold. Bend the knees, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, shoulders forward over the wrist, plank pose, holding here, shoulders on the back, core engaged. From here, if you want to, modified up dog, just pulling the chest a little bit forward, shoulders back, keeping the core engaged. And then exhale back to a downward facing dog. Breathe. And then lowering down into a child's pose. Nice full deep breaths. And that's it. And again, this was set up as partially instructional, partially practice. Mainly just because I know some people, instructional, if they do it in their body a bit, works better for them. So you can follow along. It's pretty balanced between the sides if you want to experience this in your body as you're listening to the talk. Or you could just listen to the talk and listen to kind of the thoughts on some of these positions. That's it. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Enjoy.